So I'm trying out a new camera angle today. I haven't decided if I like it. We might go back to where we were before. I'm going to talk about inversion as a concept. And this concept actually was brought up by Alex Hormozy talking about business. And I think it applies to health just as well to business, maybe even better. And this is stemming from a lot of the content and topics which I have spoken about in The War on Masculinity Part 2, which is on YouTube for free. So if this concept and this way of thinking resonates and you want a more broken down guide on the nitty gritty of executing this concept, I suggest you watch that. But I'm a big believer that some people need to hear the same message in different words at different times with different metaphors and different explanations to get it to click. You just need the right person to say it at the right time in the right way to kind of have that light bulb moment. So maybe this will be that light bulb moment for you, or maybe it'll just be me sounding like a fucking broken record and you can go watch something else. So, and again, I am paraphrasing and borrowing this concept from Hormozy. This is not my unique content, but I'm applying it to health. So, one thing that is difficult for a lot of guys who I've spoken to, and maybe even myself at some point, actually, I'm not going to say maybe, definitely myself years ago, is when you want to get your shit together, it can be difficult to work out what to actually do. So, for example, if you're aware that you're eating like shit and you're like, okay, I want to follow the perfect diet, I want to nail my nutrition, jump on Google. What's the best diet? Fuck. Keto, carnivore, paleo, vegan. It's not vegan. Vertical diet, plant-based diet, meat-based diet. If you're a dumbass, a standard Western diet. If it fits your macros, 80-20 rule, this, that, everything else. And I have seen guys misapply so much effort into the wrong things with the right intention. So one way of looking at this, which I think makes it easier for guys to know where to start or where to allocate your effort when you're first applying yourself to essentially pulling your finger out, is inverting the concept. So rather than going, what's the perfect thing that I need to do? What's the solution here? What do I need to do to get myself on track? Look at the converse and say, well, what could I do that would ensure my certain failure? And if you're not doing well and you've been fucking up for a while, you're probably adept at that. You've probably got some good experience to know, okay, I might not know what to do to get myself where I need to go, but I sure as shit know what not to do because I've been fucking doing that for ages and it hasn't worked out well for me. So I think if you can make a list of things that you know would be the worst things that you could possibly do and then do the opposite of those things, that's a pretty fucking good place to start. So I'll give you some examples of what I see come up the most. One is alcohol. Now, I know a lot of people like to think that you can have a couple of drinks a week, maybe even a few drinks a week if you are particularly optimistic. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but the less alcohol you drink, the better, right up until the point that it's zero. There is a huge difference over time between a few drinks a week compared to no drinks a week. Now, if it's a particularly special occasion, a couple of times a year, one or two drinks socially, I think I could give a pass for that, but you'd be much better off with zero. But for the sake of getting into the weeds, drastically reducing your alcohol consumption is key because I think most people would know, okay, well, if I really want to fuck my life up, I should drink every night. So do the opposite of that. Drink 0 nights. Easy. Next. Drugs. I think, and I would put alcohol into a similar category, is anything that bluntens your perception of reality and bluntens the uncomfortable signals that you need to make a change is ultimately going to fuck you up to a greater degree depending on how little discipline you have. So if you are a particularly disciplined individual with a whole bunch of accomplishments under your belt, which in this case, this video probably doesn't apply to you, then you might be able to get away with getting intoxicated every now and then and staying on the path. Again, it'd be better if you didn't. But for the sake of arguments, let's say that that's maybe an allowance to a degree within reason. But I'm sure people can recognize and go, okay, well, if I'm intoxicated all the time, I'm probably not going to make good decisions. I'm probably not going to have a clear view of my long-term trajectory. And if unforeseen circumstances pop up and arise, I'm probably not going to be able to make the best possible decision to react accordingly. So one of the most important things that we get from our body and our mind are signals where we're doing the wrong thing. And this can often come across as a pit in your stomach, like anxiety, dread, a hangover, a particularly uncomfortable bowel movement if you eat terrible food or drink a bunch of booze, or laying awake at night feeling guilty and unfulfilled, or looking in the mirror and feeling ashamed when you catch your reflection. I think those things are important signals to cue and force change. And the more uncomfortable they are, the more it's going to force your hand. And the more intoxicated you are, and the more you disassociate yourself with drugs and alcohol, the less you're going to respond to those signals. So if you can recognize and go, okay, well, getting intoxicated all the time would definitely fuck up my success in whatever I'm trying to achieve, which is objectively true. You can go, okay, well, being sober all the time is probably going to be a good solution for that. Again, invert it completely, problem solved. Next, diet. This one's a bit trickier because if you ask someone, well, what's the perfect diet? You're going to get 10 different answers from 10 different people. And depending on who you ask, you might have someone answer, well, this is the perfect diet when they're a very poor image of health themselves. Vegans. So I think what we can at least do if we're starting out just to get in the ring around the bullseye is going, well, I might not know what the perfect diet is, but I sure as shit know what I probably shouldn't eat. Getting rid of junk food. So again, going, okay, well, what would certainly fuck me up? Eating nothing but junk food. Okay. Eat no junk food. Eating processed, hypercaloric, nutritional devoid crap for every meal. That would screw you up. It might have already. Cool. Eat no hyper-processed garbage food. So only eat homemade food or only eat food from whole ingredients. Now, I think there should be more meat included in that and less plant matter and different balances for different horses, different courses. But again, that's going from shifting from the outer ring of the bullseye into the bullseye. Let's just get you on the board. So, exercise. Let's say you're overweight or you don't like the way that your body looks. I'm sorry that my camera is blurry. Apparently, when I move it, fucks up the focus. Oh well, is what it is. This will be something that I'll fix later. Why the fuck is it so blurry? Oh, I'm not even going to edit that out in post. So, movement. Movement is one that people fuck up. And I think a lot of people underestimate the amount of movement that you need to do to get you to where you want to go. I think a lot of the time, and I've spoken to other people about this and they've agreed as well, and I am not a personal trainer, I am not a fitness expert, but I've spoken to people who are and they agree, is that a lot of the time people are doing the amount of exercise and training that is more appropriate for maintaining than it is getting back on track. I've met way more people who are worried about overtraining than people who are actually overtraining. Way more. So, should you do cardio? Should you do weight training? Should you do powerlifting? Should you do bodybuilding? Should you do calisthenics? Should you do martial arts? Should you do yoga? Should you do Pilates? Well, what would be a way to completely fuck it up? Doing nothing. So invert that. Do something. Do any combination of the above or go all in on one of them. If you're really off track, anything is going to be better than nothing. Do that. What you do in your spare time outside of drugs, alcohol, and junk food, if we've already taken them off the equation, well, what would be a way to ensure failure? It would be spending all your time doing things that are degenerative or destructive. It would be spending time doing things that make you worse off tomorrow than you are today. That's how you definitely fuck this up. Okay, so what's the inversion of that? Doing things that are productive, that are at least going to make you 0.1 to 1% better tomorrow than you are today. Waking up with a clear head rather than a hangover, inversion. Not hitting the snooze button as opposed to hitting the snooze button, inversion. Keeping the promises that you keep to that you make to yourself, rather than breaking them and saying, "Oh yeah, tomorrow, diet starts tomorrow. I'm going to get up and train. Boom, snooze button. McDonald's on the way to work." It's quite simple when you look at it like that. So find things that are productive to do in your spare time rather than jerking off and watching Netflix. It's not that hard. If you can look at going, well, I don't know what I can do in my spare time, we'll go, okay, do the opposite of what I think the worst thing I could possibly do is. And if you can apply that logic to everything, you get yourself a pretty damn good place to start. And I think a lot of the time on the internet, what I see are guys getting into the weeds over small things and stepping over $100 notes to pick up pennies. So optimizing the fuck out of your training program while completely neglecting diet, drinking booze every night, and doing drugs all the time. You're just finding comfort to avoid the discomfort in the things that you actually need to do. And I think some personality types are more driven to this than others. But I think other personality types are more driven to going, okay, well, if I can't do it perfectly, I'm just not going to do it. I'll be able to start training when this happens, or I'll be able to start, getting my diet together when I don't know, buy a fucking air fryer or get a pay raise so that I can get meal prep. It's like, well, you could actually just drop down and start doing some push-ups and some calisthenics right now. And you could just pick a different dinner option and put healthy food in your mouth and chew it and swallow it instead of putting junk food in your mouth, chewing and swallowing it. Not drinking alcohol is much easier than drinking alcohol because it involves not doing something. But the difficult thing to do is doing the right thing consistently over time and having correct expectation management, that the changes that you need to make need to be strictly adhered to for a while so that you can be the person who has consistently done the right thing over time. And then you can focus on moving from the ring around the bullseye into the bullseye. So if you're not sure where to start, and again, if you want a full 1 hour plus version of this speech, War and Masculinity Part 2 is free on YouTube. You can check it out. I go exactly into all the habits you should be doing, exactly into all the habits you shouldn't be doing. But I think a lot of the time we feel the way we should feel based on what we're doing. And we think that we can fix it based on our protocol, based on our injection frequency, based on trying some new novel supplement that you heard about on the internet, based on taking fucking methylated B vitamins for your MTHFR gene mutation. And I can assure you that all of those things are going to come up short because you're the sum of your habits. And you have to do the things you know you should be doing, and you've got to stop doing the things you know you shouldn't be doing. And all of these things are much easier said than done, but I can't do them for you. I can only tell you what needs to be done. So progressively overload these things. Start with one thing. Get comfortable doing that, add the next thing. Get comfortable doing that, add the next thing. And make a promise to yourself and hold yourself accountable, because no one else gives a fuck. No one else cares. And people don't judge you and know you based on the thoughts in your head and what your intentions are. They judge you and know you when you are who you are based on what you do, not what you think. So if you're not sure what to do the opposite of what you know would fuck you up even more.